So let's spend some time with a family besieged by death, right? We're going to start our journey in Ruth. So for this, we got to go back to the time of Judges. We got to go back before Jesus, back before Paul, back before Rome, before Greece, rolling back to the other side of the monarchy, and we're going to land right in Judges. And we're going to go to Bethlehem. And right in front of us, we're going to see a young Jewish girl. Her name's Naomi, which actually means pleasant. Probably a teenager at this point. We don't know anything about Naomi. We don't know about her family for sure. We don't know what her parents were like. We don't know her brothers. We know she has family. That's about it. She goes off, she marries a guy with a fabulous name of Elimelech, which defies practicing. They eventually have two children. They have two sons. And I'm sure at this point, it's a great time to be Naomi, right? She's married, she's got two sons. They're not well off. I mean, there's no middle class here. There's basically the haves and have-nots. But they're probably doing as well as people could do in that culture. She's happy. And then a drought hits Bethlehem. Right? The town actually means bread, so there's a bit of a pun there. There's no bread in Bethlehem. So they leave. They go all the way to Moab. And to look at a map, you kind of see that there's a whole Dead Sea between them. And that's quite a ways to go, but it makes sense, right? There's a drought in Bethlehem, it's a big deal. So you gotta go really far away to go to Moab. Personally, as a person that just moved all the way from Bloomington to Burnsville, I gotta say, with two kids, that was traumatic. I can't imagine being refugees going all the way to Moab. While in Moab, Elimelech dies. We don't really know how, we don't know why, we don't know, was it sudden, was it a long, drawn out experience? Did he know it was coming? Did they know it was coming? All we know is that in one verse 3, he's taken out of the story. I'm pretty sure it felt like more than one verse for Naomi, and certainly for her sons. Right? Were her sons children at the time? We know that she lost her husband, they lost their father, and all of this in a foreign land. All of this in Moab. We get the impression, though, that they did move on. Right? They moved on. Right? They transitioned to the new normal, as we say now. They eventually get over it. Right? And they do what we all do. They basically just carried on with their lives. They move forward. The sons get married, right? To two presumably young Moabite women. Right? I wonder how close those weddings were. Well, I mean, the kids apparently came out at once, so maybe the weddings were really close. Did they have them all at once? Don't know, but, and you've got to think there's celebration, but there's probably moments of grief in there too. They're wondering, boy, I wish Dad was here to see this, or I wish my husband had been around to take part in this. But they were probably happy for at least a time, and I bet Naomi was even looking forward to being a grandma, right? But then the unthinkable happens. In verse 5, just one away from the death of their father, their sons died, both of them. Whether together or separated by years, these deaths break Naomi. Right? Wouldn't they break anyone? To lose both children, right? Right outside of the natural order of things. Naomi wants to go home. She wants to go back to Bethlehem. We're told in the story that there's no more drought in Bethlehem, and that's why she wants to go back. I'm not sure I'm going to take that, because I think her life in Moab has been shattered, it's destroyed. Wouldn't you want to just go home? Just go home. She wants to go home. So on their way back to home, she eventually looks at her two young daughter-in-laws. And again, remember, there's no children at this point, so these are probably teenagers, basically, that she's got with her in tow. And she says, go back to your home. Right? There's nothing here, I'm finished. Go back to your home. And I want us to sort of imagine that scene, that heart-wrenching scene. Don't rush by it for the joy of what's coming up in later chapters of Ruth. At this moment, we're in a very, very dark place of grief. Not only do we have the death of the sons, but now we're going to get that separation of Naomi with her daughters. Orpah does leave. She gets a bit of flack on that. I hear people give her a bit of flack on that. I can't imagine why. She really has no good options. Right? It's not that she's going to leave and then Skype them when she gets back to Moab. Right? She leaves. It's, again, a young teenage girl going all the way back. Very uncertain future, even if she makes it. No good options. Stay or go. It's an impossible choice, but she just makes one of those impossible choices and she goes. And now Naomi and Ruth are left. And we, the audience, lean forward with anticipation about what's about to come out of Ruth's mouth, if you know the story. Right? We're leaning forward, but I want us to sort of appreciate verse 14. In verse 14, we're told that Ruth clings to Naomi. They cling together. And that's where we're going to stay for a little bit. Some people are going to bring to mind the devotion of Ruth to Naomi at this point, and even use it for weddings. Ruth goes on to say, do not urge me to leave you, to turn back or not follow you. Wherever you go, I'll go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people will be my people, your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I'll be buried. That's wonderful stuff, and please continue to honor it in weddings. I read this story many times, but recently I had reread the story after spending the last week of my father's life in the intensive care unit. When I read this, it was not wedding bells that I actually heard. My father had been given a very bad prognosis. He was dying. I sat beside him. He looked at me, laboriously lifted up his hand to reach for mine, and we clung together. And I would not leave him. And like Naomi, like Ruth, like Orpah, I was left wondering, where's God in all of this? Where is God in this? John Wesley, founder of Methodism, he had an answer for this. And what I'd like to do is just sort of take a quick second to read the last bit, taken from a first-hand account of his death. Weakness grew upon John daily. He was taken to the house in City Road, some house, doesn't matter, where he was very feeble. One day, he would have written. John Wesley wrote a lot, but he couldn't wield a pen. Miss Elizabeth Ritchie, who was his housekeeper and longtime companion, she suggested, let me write for you, sir. Tell me, what would you say? So she's leaning forward in anticipation. What would you say? Nothing, John replies, but that God is with us. He begged the friends who gathered around him to pray and praise, responding with a fervent amen to their petitions. He grasped their hands. They clung together. Grasped their hands and said, farewell, farewell. As others entered the room, he tried to speak, but finding they could not understand him, he summoned his remaining strength and cried out, the best of all, God is with us. And then lifting his dying arms in a token of victory, and raising the feeble voice in a holy triumph, he again repeated the heart-reviving words, the best of all, God is with us. So where is God in this? God is in this. There is God in these moments. God never left. God won't leave. Matthew 28:20 says, and lo, I am with you until the end of the world. God is ever present, ever steady, and always, always there, even in the dark places of the soul. This may not occur to us when we're in that dark moment, and that's okay. The Psalms say, weeping may endure for a night, or maybe even a string of long nights, but joy cometh in the morning. Psalm 30, verse 5. But by the grace of God, we will remember. We'll remember God's grace that permeates all things, and that is ever, ever present, even in our darkest moments. We will remember that, the best of all, God is with us. And maybe then, that place will not seem quite as dark.